Now, the greater the understanding and engagement and the more shared experiences, the more secure the foundation for the U.S.-China relations. And that is why I think the Committee of 100 does such very important work, because it's vital to have these links and engagement so that our bilateral relationship is always on track, no matter what's happening and no matter what the ups and downs are in Washington. And that's why, looking ahead, I'm going to be spending a significant portion of my time on engaging with China and looking to engage in two broad areas. The first being economic activity, cross-border investment focused on jobs and growth, because the more investment we have, the closer the economic relationship, the stronger the foundation between our two countries. And then second of all, as Lulu mentioned, I'm very interested in conservation and the environment. And there's a very important convergence of interest when you look at environmental issues, because our two countries are the largest importers of oil, we're the largest emitters of carbon, and we have a mutual responsibility and a mutual interest in making progress here and working together to develop new, cleaner alternative sources of energy. And you know, as far as I'm concerned, there's no way we're going to solve the climate issue unless we develop and deploy in scale in China and in other major developing nations new clean technologies in the energy area. And so there's a great opportunity to work together there. As Lulu mentioned, I just returned from China. Wendy and I were there, and for me it was a long trip. I love China, but I don't want to take too many two-week trips to China. And this was a two-week trip, and I was busy all the time. And I was very encouraged to see China focused on some very important objectives, which are a big part of their new 5-year plan, which places major emphasis on rebalancing growth, so it's going to be more consumption-driven, more consumer-driven, inclusive, and sustainable. And of course, when you look at the economic imbalances, they're not sustainable. And I think we all know that in our country, we as a country and a nation, we consume too much, we don't save nearly enough. And of course, China saves too much. And so to see this program where there's going to be massive investment and a very major move, in my judgment, towards more consumption. You see it in a lot of areas in terms of what they're doing with the social safety nets. You see it in wages, which have been going up for some time, which are going to spread prosperity much more broadly. And then there's also a big focus on the environment and clean tech and investing heavily in alternative sources of new energy. And I tell you, when China does things, they don't do it in a small way. The country is going to be planting, if you can believe this, 10 billion new trees a year for 5 years in a reforestation plan. And so one of the things that was really fun for me was to go out with the minister in charge of the State Forestry Administration and visit a reforestation site and be talking about ways we could work together in that area. So there's a lot to be done, and in that regard, as Lulu also mentioned, I'm very pleased to see this week that the U.S. and China signed 6 new eco-partnerships under the 10-year framework for cooperation on energy and the environment that we building really on what we put in place in the SED in 2008. This framework is a great bilateral mechanism to create a new energy-efficient model for sustainable growth, economic growth, and development, and to address a number of the factors that cause climate change. So there are a lot of challenges. We have huge challenges in the U.S. China's got its challenges. I continue to believe that as the Chinese economy gets bigger and bigger and more complex, it's going to be increasingly difficult for them to manage their way through this growth using the combination of state planning and markets. And so when I'm there, I always make the argument that, you know, the Chinese leaders are firmly, behind reform, but I always argue that there's a greater risk to stability in going too slow than there is in going too fast. And so, again, I just have seen signs as I talk with business leaders and others that things are changing so fast and moving so quickly that they see government policies and also changing pretty rapidly as they try to keep up with this and to ride this target. But I will tell you that there's a lot going on that is very, very positive and very encouraging, and I'm very pleased to see it. And in conclusion, let me say generally, we're only going to solve in this world the biggest, most important, most difficult, complex issues, whether they're in the national security area, whether they're in the economic area, whether they're in the environmental area. No country can solve them by themselves. They've got to be solved multilaterally. And every one of these issues becomes much easier to solve if you get the biggest developed nation economy and the biggest developing economy, China and the U.S., on the same page and agreeing. And on the other hand, if we're not on the same page, they become virtually impossible to solve. And that's why it is so important to have all of you doing the things you're doing. And as someone who's spent a lot of time in the private sector, spent a lot of time working with NGOs and conservation groups, and spent time in government, I can tell you that government's got a very, very important role to play. But government can't and won't solve all the issues. And so much needs to be done by groups like this group. So again, I just applaud you for all you're doing. You're doing great work. And I see so many of you in this room that are making a big difference in U.S.-China relations, as is this committee. So thank you very much, and this is going to be a fun evening. Thank you.